So these are by far the best supplements that I have found that actually eliminate ADHD burnout. So if you are in a state that you are mentally or physically drained because you're ADHD, this is by far the best supplements that I've seen with my patients that work effectively. Now, there's 3 different scenarios that I've seen over the past 10 years that contribute to this of finding the best supplements. And so the very first scenario is going to be if you are on ADHD medication and it has worked for you, but you still feel stressed, overwhelmed, and you just feel like there's something lacking that's just not quite there. So if that's you, definitely pay attention because there's definitely multiple reasons of why you can have some focus where the ADHD medication is working, but you still feel stressed, you still feel overwhelmed, and sometimes there's a drop off with your medication. And there, like this case study right here, I want to show you a case study. This patient had the same kind of experiences, the same kind of symptoms. And when we ran their test, there was a few things that made sense of why this was happening. First off, his phenylethylamine levels, which is an excitatory neurotransmitter that helps with this process of having that consistent focus, but that was off. His dopamine, his medication was improving it a little bit, but it was still not enough to have it working consistently and still lacking, having that feeling of like, okay, there still needs to be some improvement there. Norepinephrine, which has a lot to do with stress, and epinephrine has a lot to do with stress. Those were low, and that's why he was feeling a lot more stressed because that needed to be addressed. Some other things that were also really important is his glutamate levels were low, his GABA levels were low, and his glycine levels were low. All 3 of those have a lot to do helping with stress. Okay. Now, some of the big things that we need to incorporate as far as the best supplements for this in this situation is DL-phenylalanine, because that specifically helps make phenylethylamine. Okay. The second thing was, in fact, I forgot to mention this here too, is that his tyramine levels were low. Okay. And so if that's the case, a lot of times we need to incorporate tyrosine, L-tyrosine. So you can see that right here. That helps with improving tyramine levels, but ultimately it's going to help with dopamine, right? Following along? Okay. Next thing is that we need to incorporate is Dopa Boost. Dopa Boost has L-Dopa in it, so something that just has L-Dopa in it, that can help improve dopamine levels. Same with all 3 of these. Can help with that. The other thing that's also important for here is this right here. You see where it says P5P? These are all cofactors. There's also vitamin B3. So B vitamins is a big one when it comes to if you just feel like your medication isn't quite doing the job. It's probably because you have some B vitamin deficiencies that are going on. And that's why you're feeling really burnt out. The last thing here would be L-theanine of the stack. Now, L-theanine helps dopamine and norepinephrine. Okay, remember, and also does help with epinephrine as well, because obviously norepinephrine is broken down into epinephrine. Remember, he was low in that. And so as soon as we incorporate these things, his mood improved, his focus improved. He felt like his medications was working more effectively as with this supported treatment. He didn't feel that overwhelm and stress like he was, because we use lab testing to specifically target what was the issue. Okay, that is case scenario 1 when it comes to ADHD burnout. The second scenario is if your medications is not working for you and you feel more stressed and tired than ever. Okay, let me know in the chat if that's you. Because in this situation, things are a little bit on the opposite of what's going on in body chemistry. So bringing up another case study, this patient had all those experiences, but the things that flipped is that his tyramine levels were elevated, his dopamine levels were elevated, his norepinephrine levels were elevated. So it's like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I thought the medication, is supposed to help, but it's actually making things worse because he already has elevated levels. Also, his serotonin levels were elevated. His GABA levels were elevated. Not a good situation to be in. the symptoms of any of these that are elevated, you are going to feel more stressed and even in a lot of cases more tired and physically, mentally drained. Okay. So in this case, there's a few things that we do have to address as far as stacks. One is we do need to start lowering those levels, the dopamine, serotonin, and so forth. Rhodiola does a really good job at that, as well as L-theanine. Now, you said, well, I thought L-theanine helps elevate. Now, L-theanine is a great neutralizer. So if it's too high, it'll bring it down. If it's too low, it'll bring it up. That's what I love about L-theanine. It's really good for that. The other thing is you saw here, there was still low phenylethylamine levels. So we still want to make sure that we're addressing that. So we use DL-phenylalanine to help address that. But rhodiola is going to help with lowering the dopamine, also serotonin, and also the elevated GABA. Okay. Now the B complex, we still want to address that because a lot of cases, what happens too is right here is we're seeing that sometimes because dopamine might be elevated, it's because there's certain B vitamins that are deficient. So it's not breaking it down in its proper things that it needs to be doing, like norepinephrine and epinephrine. Okay. So in that case, we want to make sure we're testing for B vitamins, which in this case is low in that. So we supplement that. One other big additional thing that's really important here, is this right here, is cortisol. So cortisol helps break down norepinephrine into epinephrine and other different things. So if there's an issue with cortisol, it's could be another reason why it's elevated and causing the stress and overwhelm and also feeling tired. So we did test his cortisol and he had low cortisol level in the morning, but it also spiked in the evening. That's not a good situation. So in this case, we had adrenal desiccated just first thing in the morning, and then ashwagandha, which is known to lower cortisol. We do that in the evening time, have them relax. Now, when we implemented these things, within just 2 weeks, he felt more at peace, not overwhelmed. Because of that, he was able to focus more consistently throughout the day, which is really key to this. And this is why it's so important to test and investigate what is going on here. What is causing the root cause of these specific things? Now, as you saw, these two cases were two different opposite, basically, situations, but they both had ADHD. This is why not one person with ADHD is the same. This is why it's so important to do individualized treatment. Now, I get this a lot of information. There is, if you look at the link, there is in the description, there is my all-day focus and energy guide. Goes over a lot of this material stuff to implement to help improve your focus and energy. You can do that in the description below if you want to follow along. Now, scenario number 3 is if medications also still have not worked for you, but not only do you feel more stressed, you feel also depressed and tired. Okay. So there's a lot of people with ADHD that this does happen. I see this happen pretty frequently. Typically, what's going on here is we have to look more in the serotonin pathway of what's going on. So with this patient, so we're bringing up another case study, kind of similar to the last one, but the thing that I want to really point out here is there was a lot of things that were elevated. So when someone's really stressed, things can be really elevated, just like this person. But if they feel more depressed, usually we'll see serotonin dip. So we'll see a lot of things that are elevated and then dipped. Okay. So that's what it was for this woman, that my patient. She was feeling depressed, but also very stressed and tired and could not focus, and her medication was not working. So therefore, like, okay, let's test and see what's going on here. So sure enough, those things were off. And so what we do here in this situation is we want to be addressing the serotonin pathway. And the few things when we see this low is we want to incorporate 5-HTP because that helps make helps make serotonin, and L-tryptophan, because L-tryptophan also in a way helps improve serotonin levels. L-theanine is another one that's really big on improving serotonin as well. B vitamins, probably seeing now in every 3 cases, B complex B vitamins are so vital because it's a cofactor in every different neurotransmitter pathway. That's why it's so important, right? See B vitamin B2 and B3 right there. Another thing is vitamin D in this case. See right here? Vitamin D helps take from tryptophan to 5-HTP, which then is going to help improving serotonin levels. So I did test her. She did have low vitamin D levels, but that is going to be a big culprit of why someone might have low serotonin. Okay. And then lastly is also still, especially when it comes to someone who feels more depressed and tired, is going to be looking at cortisol. And she had low cortisol levels throughout the entire day. And so we need to incorporate that not only in the morning, but also in midday. Now, one other thing that I usually want to check when someone feels more depressed and tired is additional hormones. And so in her case, her progesterone levels were low, as well as her DHEA levels were low. And so I had natural progesterone cream and DHEA because that could be the culprit of what's contributing to that. Now, after we incorporate that, her depressive symptoms were gone. She felt better with mood. She didn't feel so stressed and tired. She was able to have more of that clarity of mind and peace of mind because we targeted the specific things that she needed that were contributing to this. Now, if you would like me to order these types of labs for you and identify the root cause of your ADHD burnout, I'd love to help you out. And so all it does, the first thing we need to do is just book an appointment, right? So you can book an appointment with me, purchase that appointment that's in the description below. That way I can spend about 45 minutes to an hour diving into your medical history, understand the ins and outs of your challenges with your ADHD, and also identify what would be the best labs to identify the root cause of the issues and finally eliminate those ADHD symptoms that you're experiencing. So if you would like to do that, again, all you got to do is just click on the link in the description below to book that appointment and purchase that. And thank you guys so much for attending. I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Thanks. Bye.